took him down and wrapped him in linen and laid him in a sepulchre, which was hewn out of the rock, and rolled stone into the door of the sepulchre. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joses, I don't know why they said that, but okay. Behold, where what he has laid.
Amen. So here it is. Jesus has took his last breath on the cross. What was happening? So Jesus took his last breath. Now what?
Preparing for his burial.
Yes. But who?
That would have been Joseph.
Okay.
Who, who,
So Jesus is still up there.
mm,
They're waiting. Yeah. Right? So Jesus is still up there. So we have who's in 40, who they say? There are some people that were at the cross as well. Who were there? Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James. Right? So we have people that are still there. Right? Waiting, watching, trying to figure out what to do next. And then who decides to come and help support? Man by the name of Joseph. What did he have to do though? He had to do what?
Had to get permission from Pilate to be able to take the body.
He had to ask, can I get him down? We done seen what happened. The veil has been rent. The storm has come. Darkness has come. Things has happened. Almost everybody done walked away. His mama still looking. Can I get him down? What did Pilate say? He asked, before you get him down, is he dead yet? Who'd he ask to verify?
He asked the centurion.
He asked one of the soldiers. Can you verify before he? I don't need no craziness. Because we're not going through this again. Is he dead? If he's dead, we can take him down. If he's not, I don't want to go through this again. Because right? Like we talked about what just happened. They went through this whole trial. I already have guilt on going through this, dealing with this. I've seen the darkness come over in the middle of the day. I've heard the storm raging, right? Like we know all of the words. Is he dead yet? He was like, yeah, we saw him. But I like what it said in verse 43. Joseph, who was also a council member, was waiting for what? Something's supposed to happen. Something's supposed to happen. But it don't look like it's happened yet. So why are we going to leave him up there? right? So who are these people? Who's Mary Magdalene? It says Mary, the mother of James the Less and Jose. I don't know how you want to pronounce Joseph and Salmon. It's Salome, excuse me. So who's Mary Magdalene? Where your phone at? Who's Mary Magdalene? Do we remember who she was? No. I know y'all. We don't know who Mary Magdalene is. Hmm? She was one of the ones who they thought was something else. One of them women. Hmm. But she was a follower of Christ. So in everything that she may have done, she was one of the few women who followed him everywhere he ministered, everywhere he went. They actually said she was mentioned probably more than some of the apostles because she was one who supported aspects in almost every aspect of his ministry. Everything she had, she gave unto. Everything she could do, the money, the finances, making sure food, where we going to sleep, making sure you're good. She was one of them people. But we also talk about Mary Magdalene as the harlot. I ain't gonna say that too loud in the camera just in case it's on. Right? But we talk about Mary Magdalene, right? As one of them women who shouldn't have been there. You shouldn't be here. Who told you you deserve to be a part of his ministry? You got a sketchy past. We know what you did. How we know? How would you know what I did? Right? Whole nother story. We talked about that one time. How you know what I did if you want a partaker? Right? You can only tell on me if you know what I did. But there was only one way you knew what I did. So, right? We have Mary Magdalene, but she was reformed. Who else was there? Now, who is this Joseph? Did anybody do any of the stuff? Who was the Joseph? He was a council member. But he was also a what? He was a believer, right? But he also saw the wrongness of making him stay up there. How long are we going to let him just be up here? The deed has been done. Can I take him down? Because the scriptures have to be fulfilled, right? But we've kept him up as long as we could. So let me take him down. He took him down. Then what happened? What did he do? He had to go buy it. He had to go buy it. Back in the day, linen was worth money. Right? This is worth my money. Back in the day, they bartered, they traded. It's collateral. I have to give of something to get something. So not only am I needing to take him down, but I'm willing to put my resources into it. I'm not looking to just throw him away. He means something. All of this he's done over the few times he's been able to do this, he means something. So I'm going to give honor where honor is due. So I'm willing to put my resources, right? So think about that. We're in a church. Ministry sometimes costs. What says the deacon? Ministry costs. There are times you have to put your resources into this because others is waiting to see what they can get out. But there are times, even with God, is requiring us to utilize our resources. It may not be money. What other resources do we have? Talent, gifts. What else? What other resources do we have? Time. What else? Prayer. We have some people that have strategic thinking. We have some people that have the skills of administration, right? We have some people that have the ability. I may not be able to do some stuff, but I can write grants, right? We have some people that can just cook. I may not be able to buy all the food, but I'll get down there and cook. We have some people that I don't want to do none of that, but I like people or I like kids. Right? We have some people that can see problems and solve them. We have some people that see strategy. We have some people that have the skills of graphics. We have some, right? Like all of these things are resources that if we can do it in the world, and here it is, a person that's coming by who has resources. He was a councilman. He has resources and he is willing to give up his resources to ensure that he's not going to look like that. We not letting him go out like this, like just hanging on a tree. What resources do we have that we can put into this? Oh, that's good. This ministry. You know, it says we at the top. But what resources? Right? Like I love Granny. She'll be like, I can't do much, but I can put it in the paper. Right? But that's a resource that we overlook the things that we have or the things that we do or the networking that we can do. I may not be able to do it, but I can point you in the direction of somebody. Those are resources that we need to use. Because how else is the kingdom going to be advanced if we all waiting on somebody else to do it? Because think about how many people saw him still up there on that cross. Watch the whole ordeal. Look, time to go. Right? It looks like it's about to storm. I got stuff to do. I got to cook. It's getting dark too early. My mama said, be in before the street lights come on. It's dark. Right? How many people watched that and went on about their day? But here it is, somebody said, no, nah. We got to do something a little different. We're not going to let this happen like this. And then put his money where his mouth was. and used his resources. Lenin was almost yeah, right? Because linen was cloth that lasted. And you're willing to wrap a, a body in it. And so those are the things that we have to think about. What resources do we have? I want us to take a second, right? Because quite a few of us, almost everybody in here, most of us are pretty active in church or in work. But are all your resources put into this body? And we always go straight to money. Money's good though. Let me disclaimer. We need that too. Money's good. But what's good to have the money and no manpower? We have leaders burnt out trying to do it all themselves. And we have resources sitting and watching and like, all right, I gotta go. It's getting close. You got 30 minutes. So these are some of the things I wanted to make sure we think about, because as we continue to go, and of course, Pentecost is coming up. We have our church anniversary that's coming up next, right? Like all of these things require what? Work, resources. What is it I have that I can use? I can bake a cake. So I'm going to bake a cake, right? It takes me an hour to make somebody else feel happy, right? But it takes me an hour. That's a resource. And I could go on about my day. I could probably finish half of my day while I'm cooking this thing. But it's a resource. So I want us to really think about that thing. Now, one of the questions they asked in here that really kind of probed me. What are the responses of everybody that we see mentioned? Oh, what are the responses? Because in some responses, fight, flight, and freeze. Did we see any of those responses in this moment? We didn't see those responses. No, we didn't see anybody that was kind of stuck. Like, what do I do now? No. See anybody that was angry? We see anybody run away? Right. So take into consideration those type of things when we encounter situations. You don't have to. You don't have to fight your way through. You don't have to run away. Right? And then freezing, you don't have to just stay stuck. And then one of the other questions, it says, what do these people have in common in respect to the crucifixion of Jesus? What do they have in common? I'm on page 75 now. Oh, there's some people we didn't even talk about. Before we go there, who else was mentioned? So we talked about Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James. We also talked about Joseph. Who else is mentioned here? Pilate. Who's Pilate? He was the governor. What do we know about Pilate? You got a mic. What do we know about Pilate? He didn't find no fault in who?
in Jesus.
In Jesus.
But
But
he wiped his hands like, well, I don't find any fault in him, but that's what y'all want. You can have it. I wipe my hands from it.
okay.
So
What else we know about Pilate? Say that. He gave in to the crowd. Right? So we know that this is one who did not want this to happen. He really didn't want to be a partaker. He really tried his best, like, no, we got somebody over here that's a murderer. Wouldn't you just crucify him? No, we don't want him. Let him go. He said, oh, well, we're already at, that time. Usually, around about this time, what Passover, we usually let somebody go. Why don't we just let the king of the Jews go? He was like, no, let the murderer go. He was like, what? If this is what you want, right? In an attempt to say the blood ain't on my hand. But in reality, the blood is on my hand. So the very person that had to deal with this, Joseph then goes to and says, hey, can I have the body? Can I get him down? And Pilate says what? Right? We've talked about this. He said, he asked, I want to make sure. Is he dead? I want to make sure. But why do you think he asked that? Why would that be a question? I don't want to repeat it again. Why else would he ask that, though? See, people hear you. There are some people that be watching and listening to what you say. They may not believe you, but they're waiting to see. Right? Because to some degree, he was throwing back in their face. Didn't you say this is the king of the Jews? As he was on the cross, he wrote what? King of the Jews. Here lies the king of the Jews. So you're listening. There are some people that will watch you from afar to see who you are, if you are who you say you are. We have those quite often. There are some people that may admire you from afar. There are some people that may just be watching from afar. There's some people waiting to do what? See you slip up from afar. Right? Like, here it is. You're asking questions. Why are you asking these questions if you don't believe? Why are you questioning any of these things? What does it matter? You done tortured him enough. What does it matter if he's still up there live or not? Because you remember what I said. Right? So think about that as we go into our life, because quite a few people know we Christians. How many times have you got thrown back in your face that you a Christian. Don't you go to church? Ain't you? We got a hand. Ain't you? You a minister. You a Bible. What do you mean you do? What you doing out here with us?
So I had to attend an all hands meeting, is what they call it. So everyone under the executive director, he was having a meeting for all the people that fall under him. So I had to go to Jackson last week, and I was sitting at a table, and it was crowded in there. It was over 100 and some people in there. So I was in the room, and I was facing one direction, which was the window, but the speakers were this direction, and I was like, I am not getting ready to turn my chair around. I'm not getting ready to sit here and turn my neck around. So I just continued to face the direction I was, which was a window. So as I was sitting there, I'm just gonna be real. I got started getting bored, and I kind of like put my head down, and I was just like trying to listen and stay awake. So I was praying. I really was. And so after we got a break, a gentleman walked up to me and he said, "Hey, Ivory." And he said, I noticed you had your head down. He said, "Are you feeling okay or were you praying?" And I looked up at him and I said, "I'm just going to be honest with you." I said, "I really was praying to stay awake." And so I'm looking at this man and I did not know him. And so I finally just got the nerve and say, "Okay, so where do I know you from?" And he said, "We have work Bible study every Wednesday." Nice. And so he said, "From work," he said, "From Bible study on Wednesday." Well, I'm never in person. I don't go to the Bible studies. We do them on a Teams meeting site. So I'm like, I said, "Oh, from Wednesday Bible study?" He said, "Yes." Well, I didn't know him, but for some reason, he obviously knew who I was. And I just thought it was ironic that he said that he either thought I wasn't feeling well or I was praying. So it was a good thing, right? Because he recognized that, well, you know what? Knowing her, she's probably praying. Okay. He didn't know what I was praying for. But the thing of it all is, to me, it was just, you don't, as you say, know who knows you. You don't know who's been watching you and waiting to see what you're doing.
This world is small. So I just came from Grand Rapids for work. And I was at a table. Just so happened I walk in. I was late, but that ain't none of y'all business. But I walk in. I walk in and I just sit down. And just so happened I sat down at a table with someone about 8 years ago I used to work with in Kalamazoo. We hadn't seen each other probably in years um, in Kalamazoo. And here we are at a state level meeting. So at that time in Kalamazoo, we were all kind of, you know, the worker bees essentially, right? So to see someone, and I kept looking at her, and she was like, "Yeah, you know me," and I was, because I'm bad. So I'll just look at your face until I can figure it out. So, um, recognized her. We talked, and then all of a sudden, her husband walks up, and he says, "Oh, hey, DeAndre, blah 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 blah." So we sitting there talking, and then I start asking her questions, and she said, "Oh, I want to introduce you to my husband," because she didn't see him speak with me because she walked off from the table, and then when she came back, whatever. So the small world is, I know him from one level, but I know his wife from the beginning level. And in that moment, they both was like, "Oh, we both know her. Oh, this is a small world." But the thing about it is, had I been doing something wrong and encountering two people who knew me from two different levels, right? Or I can only, at first I was like, "Dang, I wonder what they're gonna say about me when they leave." Right? Because she knew me like, and he knows me like as a leader now, with my job. But it's one of those things where you never know who you're going to encounter. And you never know what people remember about you. What they remember, how you said things, how you did things, the way you made them feel, the way they encountered you, the last way they saw you, or any of those, how they perceive you now. We never know who's paying attention. You'll be amazed at how much kids pay attention. There are some kids that can run down your whole attitude to you, right? Like how many kids we see those videos where kids, I know I used to do it. You play church, right? You got your nieces and nephews or your sisters and brothers that once grew up in church and they play church or they emulate the pastor. They get his ha down real good, right? They get when he get ready to go up and come down, his shout, right? The way he hold his mic to wipe his face. You never know, positive or negatively, the impact you're making on people. And see, the crazy thing about getting back to this with Pilate, he was somebody that technically didn't believe, but you're waiting to see if I am who I said I am, if I'm going to do what I said I was going to do, if I said this temple will be built in 3 days, rebuilt in 3 days, is it going to happen? Because everybody's sitting around watching to see. Is it really going to happen? Can he really die? Right? Like this was another question that was happening during that time. Can he really die? Did he really die? I don't know if he's dead because, he's supposed to be like the Messiah. The Messiah is not supposed to die. There's a lot of perceptions that tend to happen, right? And here it is, another perception. And so, even asking someone to make sure he is or is he is another piece of that perception. And then, although you did want to be there, you then turn around and make someone ask you or grant permission to take his body down. So these are some of the people that were a part of this process of the crucifixion. Go to 47. Now here we see that Joseph is getting ready to in this book, I'm sorry. In this book, verse 47, page 75. Joseph bought the linen, took him down, wrapped him in linen cloth, and laid him in a tomb which had been pretty much hollowed out, or what did it say, hewn out in the rock. So this big rock was hollowed out to become his tomb. And he then rolled the stone against the entrance. Who was watching? Again, you never know who's watching, right? But I love what it actually says in this book about them. It says Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joses, were looking on to see where he was laid. Why were they watching to see where he was laid? I heard somebody. They were going to put perfume on him later. Why else?
To see if it was true what he was saying.
Okay.
Because they, I mean, they believe, but
Mhm.
they knew he said he was gonna get up in 3 days. So
Mhm.
it's like, well, we know where he at. So let's see where he at, and we be back in a few days and see if he's still there. But the one thing I got, like I said, the soldiers had to see where they put him, because why would they seal the rock? That kind of like. So if you wasn't, he dead,
Mhm.
but you gonna put a seal over the rock, like
Mhm.
to
To make sure.
sure that
Yeah.
he wasn't gonna get out.
Yeah. And so that no one would steal his body. But they watched to see where he was. This is almost like going to a grave site. You want to make sure you know where to come visit. But also, sometimes you go back to mourn, to leave flowers, to just be there to protect, right? So to make sure, and interestingly enough, only 2 people went. That's interesting. Or only 2 people are mentioned by Mark. Only 2 people went to go make sure they knew where he was laid. Say it again.
Out of all the people that were there, out of all the people that stayed through the whole process to see him be whipped and see him be just ostracized and talked about and
Mhm.
mocked and spit on.
Mm.
All these people, after all that, those were the 2 left.
Stayed.
They
That's
through
not
the whole
important.
thing.
Interesting. It made me think about being a woman, right? We don't know how not to care, right? We don't know how not to take care of somebody. We don't know how not to be there. In this one thing, I was like, it's interesting. Most of his ministry, a lot of who you heard him talk about or talk with or talk to were the men. And to hear at the end, it's his mom. And I wouldn't say his homegirl, but right. Like it's 2 people who cared about him as a caretaker, because their job during a lot of the ministry was the ministry of helps. See, we discount the ministry of helps. The ministry of helps is vital. That's a ministry that I mean a lot of us should have, but it usually who's usually make up the ministry of helps? Very similar. Seeing the need, seeing the issues, reading between them lines. You say you okay, but girl, take this tissue. Right? Wipe your face. I see you have a need. I see I could help. I could fill in the gap some kind of way. Interestingly enough, I was like, oh, we take for granted the ministries of help. Somebody else clean the church. Who wipes stuff down? Who's making sure the trash is done, dishes are washed, making sure you not walking out the house looking crazy, right? got the kids. I was watching a video where, back in the day, parents used to always put that Vaseline all over your face, tearing up your face, right? But you could see that's the gift of the ministry of helps, that you have the ability to, in my lowest, be there. In my highest, you still be there, making sure I'm good. And in this moment, that was something I was like, ooh, never forsake the ministry of helps. Who else gonna make sure we got tissue boxes all over the place and that the tissue's picked up? Because everybody just dip out of the church. Right? The water bottles, right? The making sure pastor has what he needs. Making sure the ushers ain't standing up too long, right? Like, it's the ministry of helps. And I think it's important for us to recognize all of us should have ministry of helps. See the need, meet the need. We shouldn't be leaving this church making sure somebody else do it. Somebody else to do it. Because the ministry of helps is vital. And that's a ministry that I think more should be participating in. Because it's key. There's not enough people to pray for somebody. Right? We have people that need to be visited in the hospital, right? Or just lift up a prayer. Prayer warriors. That's part of ministry of helps. Because somebody need to be praying. Somebody, right? Somebody needs to be taking out the time to pray. We can't just assume and always wait for the pastor to do it. So I'll pause on that though, but I did want to make sure we looked at that because that's going to be vital in going into 16. Now as we come into Mark 16, here it is, when the Sabbath is over. And I'll would anybody would like to read? Yeah, go ahead, Granny. 1 through 8.
And I'll be reading now the King James Version. And when the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome had bought sweet spices that they might come and anoint him. And very early in the morning, the first day of the week, they came unto the sepulchre at the rising of the sun. And they said among themselves, who shall roll us away the stone from the door of the sepulchre? And when they looked, they saw that the stone was rolled away, for it was very great. And entering into the sepulchre, they saw a young man sitting on the right side, clothed in a long garment, and they were affrighted. And he said unto them, be not affrighted. Ye seek Jesus of Nazareth, which was crucified. He is risen. He is not here. Behold the place where they laid him. But go your way, tell the disciples and Peter that he goeth before you into Galilee. There ye shall see him as he said unto you.
All right. So remember, we just talked about Mary, the Marys, seeing where he was buried. Now thinking about what we talked about, why were they paying attention to where he was buried?
So they could anoint his body.
So they can come back. So they come back after the Sabbath. And what did they bring with them?
Spices,
And what else?
oil.
And they went when?
Early.
early Sunday morning, right? Where your pastor at? So early Sunday morning, right? Or early in the morning, they went to anoint him, to rub him down. I know what I saw. But even though I know what I saw, I know who he is still to me. So I really don't want him to be in here any other kind of way. So they go back and they go early as soon as the sun had rose. And they go early as soon as the sun had rose. And they say to one another, what? On their walk. Who gonna roll who gonna roll that stone away? How we gonna get in there? How we gonna make sure, right? Like, how we gonna get in there? And so they go, but who did they encounter? They say a young man, but depending upon what gospel you read, they say an angel who was also there for what? To also guard the tomb. And they said what to him? Hmm? Yeah, what did he say to him? Sorry. He is not here. What were they told that happened to Jesus of Nazareth? Nazarene.
He was dead.
He wasn't here. Right? Here it is. I know I saw what I saw. And what I saw was Joseph wrap him up. What I saw was Joseph put him in there and push this big stone in front of it. What do you mean he ain't here? Right? What do you mean he's not here? How would you respond? What would be your response? What? Who got him? Somebody done stole Jesus, right? These are right, like, because initially, what do you mean? Don't be amazed. What do you mean? Don't be. I know I saw what I saw, and you was there with me. We saw it together. What do you mean? Don't be amazed. Why he ain't here? But then it goes down to say it. I don't want to go too far because I want to make sure we can at least get some of this. So do not be amazed. You are looking for Jesus the Nazarene who has been crucified. So we know what you know. He was crucified. Yeah, that's the one you looking for. Yeah, you in the right place. How many times we go somewhere lost? Yeah, you in the right place. You walk outside. It's just, yeah, you in the right place. I know who you looking for, but he's not here. Behold, here is the place where he laid. So where he go? Right? What do you mean? This is where he laid. Past tense. What about this would amaze you? What's amazing about this? Because we just talked about people pay attention.
He was gone. Said he was gonna raid. Yeah.
He said it. How often are we amazed? Not just people, right? Legitimately. We get amazed sometimes in this day and age, and you are right. In this day and age, we do get amazed when people actually do what they said they were going to do. It's sad. We no longer can have the expectation that people are going to do what they say, and we get amazed. Girl, You said you was going to come on Sunday and you came. Right? But how often do we get amazed when the things that we pray for come to pass? Right? How often do we say we have faith for what God can do, put it on God, tell God about it, say, okay, I'm leaving it in your hands, God, and then God do it, you like, oh, magic. No. He did just what he said he was going to do. You asked, you held up your end, and then God did what? He held up his end. But are we looking for God to do that, or are we looking to be disappointed? Because we get used to being disappointed. We're probably more used to being disappointed than actually stuff falling through. It worked this time. Go ahead.
And that's where our faith
Mm-hmm.
is really put on trial. We get on our knees, or some of us lay on the bed, know you're gonna fall asleep in it, but that's another story for another day. But we ask these things, so specific in your prayer, you adamant in your prayer, you passionate in your prayer, and when God does it, sometimes a lot of times, we don't give him the reverence and the adoration that he truly deserves, because he don't have to do it. Every night when we go to bed, he don't have to do it. He don't have to make sure that we're okay. He doesn't have to open our eyes before the alarm clock goes off. He doesn't have to do that. But he said he was going to do it. You did like Sister Dee Dee said, you did your part. And he held up his end of the bargain. But we just don't give him the gratefulness, that grateful attitude, the attitude of gratitude like we're supposed to. Because like you said, Dee Dee, we're so used to, all right, well, I'm going to just have to do what I got to do to make this happen. We have to get in that survival mode. Well, it ain't gonna get done unless I do it. Oh, but then God does it. And where are we at?
It's interesting because I'll be honest, I'm one of them too. Right? There are times when there's some stuff I be like, ain't that big deal to God, right? But then there are some things that I know that if he don't do it, it can't be done. And then he do it. Right? And I'm like, bruh, you like me like that? Right? You rock with me. Right? But then why am I surprised that he did what he said he was going to do? Right? Like we don't feel worthy. It's a battle that we have in this walk of feeling worthy of him doing what he said he's going to do and even just keeping us. Right? Like you are doing what he asked you to do. You learning, you growing, you're learning in your faith, you're growing in your faith, you're going you're moving, you're giving out your resources, you're doing what he's put before you. And then he comes and upholds his end. And then what happens? How do we feel? Like, oh my God, you're going to expect me to do some more, right? Like, let's be real. That's also why some people don't step into this. Because now I have to really uphold my end, and because now you really upholding your end. So now I gotta uphold my end. God, if you do this for me, I'm gonna stop doing this. And then he said, okay, bam, I'm gonna do it. Oh, so I gotta stop? Yes. Right? You gotta uphold your end of the bargain. But we get amazed when we're going Sunday after Sunday, Wednesday after Wednesday, Saturdays, Thursday, Fridays, like depending upon who you are in the ministry, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, surprise calls on Saturday, Sunday afternoon, dinner at the pastor's house, right? Like you're doing all of it. What are we doing it if we're not going to believe? What are we doing it if we're not going to believe he's going to uphold his end of the bargain? Because you are doing, he said, if you draw nigh, I will draw nigh unto you. If you come close, I will come close to you. If you believe in me, I will believe in you. If you serve me, I will serve you. If you just come near, try. If you just try. I think sometimes we forget that there is power. And man, there have been times I've been like, God, I'm trying. And sometimes that's what he needs. Not that we're perfect. There is no such thing as, this is why Jesus had to do all this. Because we are not perfect. Ain't no way you out. Even the best of them. Even the best of them aren't perfect. But you are trying. And and God be like, I'll take it. I ain't tell you to be perfect. I told you to try. I told you to do. But we think we have to have it all together. Even thinking about Mary Magdalene, this is somebody who, prior to all of this, was getting a bad name, getting a bad rep. Everybody knew what she had going on or what she did in her previous life, right? But that didn't stop her from being at the grave. That didn't stop her from being at the place of the cross. That didn't stop her. See, we let small stuff stop us. I done stumped my big toe. I ain't going to church. I'm hungry. I can watch virtually while I eat my sandwich. Right? These small things and some big things that are still small to God. God, I'm not good. God, I smell like the stuff I done did. And we stop it. We make it stop us.
Let me just be obedient to God because I'm trying to sit. Sitting here and I'm like, do I say this? But yeah, I need to say when God has already established a call on your life, what you do or what you've done does not change the call on your life.
He ain't gonna change his mind.
He's not. When you Moses, he had a stuttering problem. Moses killed a man and buried him in the sand. Peter had an anger issue. Peter ended up being the one to deny Jesus. You know the story of Rahab. Rahab was a harlot, but she still protected two spies on their way out. It don't, and this is where we, at our humanness, our emotions, and
Mhm.
all that guilt and shame that we deal with it, because we do deal with it. You know, we sit there and it's like, "Ah, I can't, God. I mean, you good, but I ain't good enough for you. Like, wait a minute. Ephesians 2:10 says that we are his workmanship. And then we predestined unto good works. So it don't matter what you doing. It's already been established
Mhm.
that you are who you are. And he's already established that call on your life. So that don't change. Yeah, you worthy. Yeah, you're enough. But we get caught up in that emotionalism. And yeah, we're supposed to be sincere in our remorse when we do things against God's word. Yes, but we, I was just talking earlier. You're gonna fall, but don't wallow in it.
Mhm.
The fall is not the problem. It's the wallow. That's the wallow. When you just stay there. Ah, I can't. I done messed up. This is it. That's a problem. You got to get up. And Dee talked about it. People watching. People ain't watching just to see you fall. People watching to see you get up.
People watching to see if you a man or a woman of your word. Are you really gonna do what you said you're gonna do? You really gonna let me borrow $20? Right? You you really gonna let me borrow $20? Right? Like some people are really waiting to see if you are a man or woman of your word. And unfortunately, we guess what we do? We do God the same way. God, let me borrow $20. Right? I want you to have. I don't want you to have to owe. You don't owe me. You're like this is your reasonable service. This is what we're doing this for. And so I want us to recognize, because I love that, again, going back to some of the people who were at the crucifixion and at the participation of his burial, they could have thought of every reason why they should not. Why should I be right? We know Peter denied and dipped and realized he did wrong, right? We know that some of the other people had other things, but here it is, you have Mary and Mary that are the witnesses to run and tell everybody. You have Joseph, who probably should not have been there, should not have asked. Right? You have people who society may have said, you shouldn't be in this place because he's the king of the Jews. What do you look like being a part of a kingdom? What do you look like participating? So, what do you look like serving? What do you look like being a deacon? You a minister. Depends. Nah. But right, who are you to be a servant of the most high God? Who are you to be willing to sacrifice your time knowing all of the stuff you've done, all of the stuff you did, and all the stuff you probably gonna do. Because, right, we ain't perfect. You're gonna do something wrong probably as soon as you walk out of here. Right? So, nah, but you know, those are the things that where condemnation, where self issues, where getting into our own mind, my own finite mind, I don't deserve it, so I'm not going to even let you do it. Right? How many people do we do that to? How often do we do that to God? I don't even deserve it, so I'm not going to even ask. And I'm going to discount myself from even trying at the thought that maybe you might do it anyway. So I'm going to stop you from doing it because I'm not going to try. We do those things. We have a hand in the back. We do those things. We intentionally stop our blessing. Do you know the blessing it is for simply being and seeing and being a messenger?
The most powerful words that Jesus said before he gave up the ghost was, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Whether they know or didn't know, forgive them. I recently went through a trial where I had to relearn God from a different place. There's a scripture that says in Thessalonians that people be lovers of themselves more than lovers of God. So lately I've been hearing the term, I gotta love me, I gotta love me. So the Holy Ghost arrested me 2 weeks ago. He said, how can you love me? But yet I told you, if any man come after me, let them first deny themselves, take up their cross and follow. How can you love yourself and deny yourself at the same time?
Facts.
So I had to change my posture. 2, I had to change my language. And 3, I had to learn how to pray in his word and not in my feelings.
See, we are some of our biggest enemies. I remember saying a long time ago, it's not the enemy, it's the inner. We will talk ourselves out of blessings. We will walk ourselves away from blessings. We will give blessings back because I don't deserve this. Not recognizing that in itself, you now have an opportunity to show just how good I am. Right? Like we don't even want the testimony that God did it. Because now I got to do something. Right? And so it's important for us to recognize that one of the things I looked at, God is so strategic. He had Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James, Joseph, Pilate, the Centurion, the angel. He had all these people that witnessed this piece. It could have been anybody else. Everybody that we just labeled, to some degree, they got flaws. But they had a strategic role to play in giving God glory. Because you just helped me to fulfill what I said was going to happen already. I needed a witness. Why not give a witness to somebody who they usually don't listen to anyway? The least of these is going to be my witness. The ones you think is beneath you is going to be my witness. The ones that you don't feel deserve it is going to be my witness. Somebody who is not even associated with me is going to give up their resources and be my witness. Mind you, I had 12 disciples, 12 homeboys that's been rolling with me. You done saw the best of the best I done did. But a stranger had to get me off the cross. The least of these. And then he asked for permission to ensure that he did it right. Because I want you to know that I honor him and I'm not going to let you dishonor him, even if I'm not a full follower of his. I still know what you're doing is wrong. But you are a part of my witness. So I'm going to stop right there. I don't want to go tap into too much because I can keep going about this piece. Because he will make us think about these things. How many people do we discount? That they not good enough. They're not worthy enough. They got to prove themselves to you. Not they got to prove themselves to God. They got to prove themselves to you. Who are you? Let alone who am I to even be serving a God like this? I'm just that. Listen, somehow we think we not the least of these. Because we got a little something. We done been saved 5 minutes. Now we ain't the least of these no more. And if you stump your toe, listen. But these are the things, right? At any moment, we can all be the least of these. God has no respect of person, but I appreciate that he allowed us to see the people who are considered the no-namers until I give them a name. So I appreciate this lesson on tonight, even if it don't do for nobody else. It did for me. Because I recognize that sometimes we have to recognize what God is doing in our life and the way he chooses to move in our life and being just a willing participant. Just a willing participant. That's all he asks. Just be willing. I'll do the rest. So as we close on tonight, recognizing that God has a way of using us to get his glory regardless. All of us have a role to play. All of us have resources to give. If it's not financial, it is another form. But the biggest thing is being willing to be used by God to get the glory. And so I'm going to let my pastors who do it so eloquently finish the other portion of this and tapping into what happens when he rose. But to God be the glory on tonight for giving us the strength to do this thing one more time. We're going to go ahead and close. Heavenly Father, we thank you on tonight, oh God. We thank you for the opportunity to read your word, to dissect your word, to illuminate the things that you desire for us to learn on tonight. God, have your way in this place. As we leave, oh God, let us not leave your presence, oh God. Give us the strength we need to keep going both day in and day out, oh God. Give us the strength to be a testimony, oh God, to someone else of how good you've been to us, oh God, how great you've been, oh God, how you shaped us, made us, and molded us, oh God, to be your people on the earth, to be your disciples, spreading your gospel, that you are just that good, that in spite of what we look like, in spite of what we feel like you can do all things but fail in our life, oh God. So I thank you on tonight, oh God, for illuminating your word to us, oh God, for allowing us to read more about who we are in you. Thank you for that, oh Father. Continue to shape us, make us, mold us, oh God. Continue to allow our homes to be greater and better than what we left it, oh God. God, give us traveling grace and mercies, oh God, not just for those that are here, but for our leaders that are out of town, oh God. For those that are connected, oh God, give us strength to keep going in this way and in this walk, oh God, and give us traveling grace and mercy so that we will be here yet again to tell somebody the good news of how good you are, how great you are, that you yet allowed our Savior to do all these things so that we may have life and we may have the right, oh God, to come into the kingdom. Oh God, so we thank you, we love you, we bless you, oh God. Have your way in our lives, oh God, forever and always. Amen.